One day, Willie called me, "I'd like to have some French bred horses." When she arrived in the yard, he didn't tell me nothing, but I know he said, "What's that?" She's a pony. I called Jack, and Jack said, "Oh, by the way, I galloped a mare this morning. She galloped fantastic." I said, "What's her name?" "Quevega." I said, "Jack, you make my day." He calls me very often, What about this horse? What about this horse one? He keeps me awake all the time, because we have to work quick now. The other agent wants to do what we are doing. It was fantastic because Willie was waiting to win the Gold Cup, for many, many years. He never won it. I remember Harold jumping in my arms,
Could you even foresee at that stage just how good he would end up becoming?
Yes. I was with Harold. She came out of the box. We looked at each other. Wow. We didn't say nothing.
Are there any notable names that you sit here and think, oh, I really wish we'd managed to get there?
Yeah. Épatante.
Which horse do you still feel there's a little bit more untapped potential?
Huge machine.
We are always trying our best to find the next superstar.
You remind me, Majborough, he could be horse definitely for Cheltenham if everything goes well,
113. The amount of Cheltenham Festival winners trained by Willie Mullins.
Willie's first festival winner was tourist attraction in the 1995 Supreme. Fast forward 14 years, Willie Mullins had amassed 12 total festival winners going into the 2009 festival.
Yes, consistent success and good going, but nothing extraordinary. But 2009 is important. Why? Because the rate of winning dramatically increased.
Quevega and Michael Dagenet were first. In the years following, we had the Fly, Thousand Stars, Sir Des Champs,
and that was before the pink and green invasion, Champagne Fever, Vautour, Douvan, Fahine. The winning didn't and hasn't stopped.
12 winners at Cheltenham for Willie Mullins from 1995 to 2008, before 101 between 2009 and the present day.
And yes, Willie Mullins is a master trainer, but a variety of factors work together to create these kind of results.
One of the most significant factors is the careful sourcing of these horses.
Willie splits his scouting team into two. Harold Kirk, who you probably might be more aware of, sourcing the talent from Britain and Ireland, whilst Pierre Boulard is the man on the ground in France.
Iconic champions such as Boum Photo, Quevega, Galopin Des Champs, Douvan, Majborough and Lossiemouth all came through Pierre Boulard.
So we had to try our luck. To my surprise, he agreed to meet us. In this episode of Let's Talk Racing, we're going to meet an unsung hero behind the record-breaking Willie Mullins operation.
If you enjoy this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.
Pierre, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. I know that our viewers, who are massive jumps racing fans, will possibly not know exactly how you work with Willie and Harold and the team, but they will know obviously the horses and the champions that you've sourced for them. First and foremost, just for our viewers that may not know, how long have you been buying horses for Willie Mullins?
I started with a horse called 4 Heures. He won a group 1 in Punchester, the 4-year-old race, the Revenge of Triumph Hurdle. And that was 2 years before Quevega, so we're talking about 15 years ago, a good 15 years ago.
How did your relationship with Willie come about?
Yeah, it's quite simple, and I was lucky in a way that I was working in Maison Lafitte for a French trainer called Jacques Hubert. I was just responsible of a yard, and Paddy sent over Don Run to run in a French champion hurdle, and Jacques Hubert has connection with the Irish, so he let Paddy coming to the yard, and the mare arrived in my stable, and nobody speak English in the yard, nobody, and Paddy was not speaking a word of French, so just went to him and talked. I didn't know who he was, and then I drive him to Auteuil. The mare won, and he just said to me, if you want to come over for experience, you'll be the most welcome. So, which I did 6 months after. I went to Ireland, and Paddy was already a very famous and good trainer, and Willie was there, George, Tom, and Tony. The four brothers were working in the yard. That was in 1986, and I was just gaining experience. Willie was a champion amateur, and so it started like this. But at the time, I just wanted to have an experience. I never thought about that. 20 years after, Willie would call me for French horses.
What did you think of your time when you went over to Ireland?
Well, it was a different time, the country was very poor. I remember the salary was very, very little, but the road, the staff, the people in the yard have no cars. I remember I came over from France with my own car, and the people of my age has no car at the time in Ireland. It was really before the economy went very high in Ireland. So I remember that, but the experience was very good. Paddy was not talking much, but he was very... I remember one time we went to racing together, and Paddy just said to me, he had the intuition that French bred horses will be very big over the jump in Ireland and England.
Did he tell you why he thought that?
He just had the feeling that, and I was amazed what he was saying. We were 1986. He knew that the French-bred horses will perform.
So how did your relationship develop with that family? When did you start buying horses?
Then I came back after that. I started to train in Chantilly with 2 horses. I had an offer to go to Saudi Arabia to train in 1990, First World Gulf War, but I stayed 2.5 years in Saudi Arabia. Came back after that, and I have an offer to train in Berlin, to train for Gestus Goldstoff, who are the owner of See the Moon. But at the time, there were no See the Moon in my yard. I was on the east part of Germany, east of Obergarten. So it was very interesting because I was the first Westerner trainer. I stayed 3 years there. Then I started to look at the German horses to be potentially very good jumpers. And I started to make business with Guillaume Macaire because he liked the German pedigree. And I came back to France after 3 years. Couldn't train anymore because people forget about, And I started to buy horses from Germany to go jumping with Guillaume Macaire. And then one day, Willie called me. He was just starting training, I think, and he just said, "I'd like to have some French-bred horses." And I remember I saw this AQPS mare that I bought at the show when she was 2 years old, very cheap, by Galopin Des Champs. And he said, "If you have anything that can fit here, let me know." And I said, "Yes," I just stood after. "Yes, I know one," and that was Quevega. And Quevega, when I said to Quevega, he said, "Yes, I'm very interested." Willie said, "I'm very interested because the dam had produced a French horse who went to Willie, and Willie knew that he was very good, but the owner was not paying his bill, so the horse never ran. But Willie knew he was a good horse." And that was a half-sister. And he said, "Oh, yeah, okay." She won 3 bumper in France, very impressive, but she was tiny. And that was my first mistake in a way. She was small because the owner cheated a bit on me on the size, and we make the deal. And when she arrived in Willie saw it. I was not so sure,
But obviously, the jumping world went on to see how incredible of a mare she was. 5 Cheltenham Festival wins. What was it about her in the early stage that you thought, right, that's why I want to send her to Willie?
She won 3 times bumper in France. She had very good turn of foot. I saw her in Vichy when she won, very deep on the girls. I wasn't sure about the size because I was just the beginning of my business, and the French horses a lot of time are missing a bit of size. That's the way they are. And she was by Galopin Des Champs. Galopin Des Champs is a bloody good sire, So we just take the chance because Willie had a brother and he was good. That was luck, because she was a bit too small for Willie. When she arrived in the yard, he didn't tell me nothing, but I know he said, "What's that? She's a pony."
So when she started winning at the Cheltenham Festival, Was that quite a rewarding feeling for you? Did you know that?
It was a release. I remember Jacques Ricou, the very French good jockey, went to Willie because I sent him. He said to me, I'd like to work for Willie. So I sent him. And one day I called in the winter, I called Jacques, and Jacques said, oh, by the way, I galloped a mare this morning. She galloped fantastic. I said, what's her name? Quevega. I said, Jacques, you make my day. Then I knew, and here we go. And then she became...
But at that point was a real surge then, because Willie started buying a lot of horses from France, Michael Dagenet, and then you kind of go through to the early teens and you have Vautour, Douvan, real superstars.
Yes.
What was that period like? When was Willie kind of on the phone going, come on, send as many as you want?
No. He just, Willie, he trusts people. He knew, he told me just be awake about the horses here in France. And I remember very much for Vautour and Douvan. Douvan won in Compiègne. Very impressively ridden by Jacques Ricou. I was with the owner was next to me. I just asked him, "Is he for sale?" And because he was by walk in the park, the way he won, he just did something impressive, and we went for him. Vautour was Auteuil. Guillaume Macaire was a trainer. The horse just catch my eyes. Galopin Des Champs. It's just a bit of a feeling.
Does that mean that there's not like a routine? You look all over the shop for talent?
Yes, we're buying horses with performance, they have to be clear en main, but it could be only one run. It's a bit of a risk when it's only one run, but it's the impression, you have to feel something. They can be beaten as well, but now everybody's focused on France, so what I see, a lot of people are seeing it as well, agent. So it's a bit more difficult now because the price go high and we are on the same horses. But it was more easy before because there was less competition in the buying. The horse has to show something. Of course, physically, but just the performance, what he did in the race.
You work quite closely with Harold Kirk. He does the sourcing in Britain and Ireland.
Yes.
What does your relationship look like?
Well, Harold, I'm very, very lucky. It's a teamwork. Harold is in contact with the clients. Don't need to be bothered about that. He knows them all. He's close from them, and so when sometimes he sees the racing as well on the TV, and he said, "What about this horse in France?" And then if I didn't see the race, I go and and then. He deal with the clients, He said, "Give me time." Sometimes they said, "Buy the horse," Willie and Harold, and then they find the clients, But I have nothing to do with that. I'm very, very lucky. Harold do all this, but Harold look at the French racing as well, and he calls me very often. What about this horse? What about this horse won? Did you see any bumpers? He keep me awake all the time. Because we have to work quick now.
Why do you have to work so quickly?
Because the competition, the other agents wants to do what we are doing from quite a few years with a lot of success, and they want French-bred horses because the stat, Cheltenham now in Auteuil, horses who perform are very, very expensive, getting really expensive because of the success, and the few agents work for English trainers and in Ireland as well.
How often would you speak to Willie or Harold?
Harold nearly every day. Willie not so much. I'll say I'm not too sure. It's not regular. Willie's so busy with racing, and he has so many things that I don't want to bother him. I'll be in contact with Harold like nearly every day.
Is there a certain type of horse? Going back to the horses that you send Willie. So when you first sent Quevega, she was a small mare, but now you're sending so many over to Willie. Is there a certain thing that Willie's looking for? Is there a certain thing that Harold's looking for?
Yes. Well, it's a jumpers. We have to be careful about the size because a lot of French horses are missing a bit of size. That's the only thing, because they have to carry much weight in England and in Ireland. Here, a jumper can size 16 hand and run over the chase. In England and Ireland, they have to be 16.1, 16.2, so the size is very important. So that's why I was lucky with Quevega and others, because Saint-Sam missing a bit of size. The size has to be there, Then the pedigree, of course, especially for mares, because if you want to resell. But then the rest, they are jumpers. Jumpers are a bit made different than the flat horses.
Has it changed over time?
No. We need scope, bones. I'm very careful about deep on the girths because it's very important for long-distance horses. No, it hasn't changed. Just the Irish horses are bigger and stronger with more size than the French horses, but no, it didn't change much.
So what does a week in the life of Pierre Boulard look like? What will you be doing? Will you be going to yards in the morning? Will you going racing?
Yes.
How does it work for you on a daily basis?
I go every day to Michael Serror because I have horses with him, and he's the main jump trainer here. He's rated very high this year. I think he's just behind François Nicole. He's still a young trainer. He trained Défi du Seuil, We bought Jimmy du Seuil from him. And so I have a few French clients, and I introduced to Michael Serror, and we are quite lucky he's a good trainer. So I go nearly every day to the yard, and then I follow always the racing. If they're Auteuil, I go to Auteuil and Compiègne for jumping all the time, and then I just follow the result and watch the races on TV if there is a maiden over the trip, because we do buy flat horses for dual purpose. Really like that, a horse who can perform in the flat, like Vauban, like so many. So we are interested by flat horses as well. They need to have a stayer's pedigree, There's a bit, and physically I have to be careful as well, but I have to look for flat as well.
So Pierre, in recent years, Willie Mullins has had so much success, but for many years that Gold Cup eluded him. Boum Photo was a horse that I think by the admission of plenty in the Mullins yard wouldn't have necessarily stood out from the pack. What did you see in him that potentially made him a star?
He was trained by Emmanuel Clayeux, and we have a lot of success with this trainer. The horse ran in Moulins over hurdles, fell, the second last. I think he was ridden by Félix de Gilles, I'm pretty sure he was. And just pedigree jumping as well. Not very impressive physically. But he would have won the day he fell. And talking with Emmanuel as well, Emmanuel recommended the horse. We just took the chance,
And do you sometimes, in that position, just have to almost believe in your gut and believe in your eye of what you're seeing?
Yes. The trainer can be a help, not all the trainer, because when you buy a horse, the trainer always said he's a good horse. They all said that. But some people I will trust more than the others. But the feeling is very important as well. Sometimes we buy horses you never heard about him, Fortunately, it's not happening so much because Willie is such a talent, that I have to make sure that they are sound, they will stay. The French are very good for schooling the horses, so when you buy a horse from a jumping trainer, it's a big help, because then everything is done for jumping, so Willie would not have so much to do about that. That's another thing was very interesting from the French, So it's more easy. We have less risk when you buy a horse from a jumping trainer than a flat trainer, because after the flat trainer we have to do the schooling, which is a long time, and some horses are not so talented over the jump.
In the case of Boum Photo, when he went on to win those Gold Cups, how much satisfaction did that give you to know that you were part of that process? And I suppose after it being such a weight for Willie and such a kind of monkey off the back.
It was fantastic, because Willie was waiting to win the Gold Cup, for many years. He never won it. And when he won in Cheltenham, it was a fantastic feeling. I remember Harold jumping in my arms, Yeah, he was like, we won the Gold Cup, Wow. I was so happy for Willie to win the Gold Cup. He would have been good as well if he was not a French horse, but because he was French, when we bought him here, it was a fantastic feeling, really.
And many people have to wait potentially decades more to find another horse like that. But in Galopin Des Champs, one kind of came around the corner only a few years later.
Yes, that was during the COVID. I couldn't go to the racing because we were not allowed, the agent. But when he won, first time out in Auteuil, trained by Chaichet, he was so impressive. He was not a big field. We didn't know it was 4 years old race. We didn't know how good was the field, but the way he won. And Willie was watching the race, and we just talked. And I said, the full sister of this horse won a listed in Auteuil. And we got to take a chance on this fellow, That's what happened. And after Willie makes a difference, But the way he won was incredible, and the full sister was already good, trained by Chaillet, So that was.
But could you even foresee at that stage just how good he would end up becoming?
Yes. The minute they do something in a race, then. If the pedigree is there, it's physically they're okay. I have to be sure that they are correct, That's why sometimes we make the deal subject like I see the horse, because if it's only on TV, it's not good enough. And Harold is very careful about that, and he's right. He said, even when you see a horse at the races, you see him different at the stable. They look better at the races than they are, and sometimes you can miss something about confirmation. So I always go to see after the racing, and the deal is always made subjects to see the horse, because I have to make sure they are not confirmation-wise okay, It's important. Willie, there's some default that he cannot go, because there's a chance that they break down. The training is so hard, for jumping. It's important that they stay as sound as possible.
And you mentioned earlier about buying kind of staying pedigrees and all of that, but you have horses like Galopin Des Champs, and then you have horses like State Man, who are obviously right at the other end of the spectrum, 2 mile hurdlers, 3 mile chasers. But when you're going and sourcing them, they're running in very similar types of races.
Yes, the thing is, in France we don't have very little. We have little races of a long trip. We don't have 3 mile chase except the Gold Cup, So we're taking the chance about are they going to stay? But it's in the pedigree. But a lot of horses don't perform over a longer trip, and really make the difference in that. And it became a 3 mile chaser, and the other way as well. We just take the chance, but. The jumping pedigree is there, A lot of mares are cross-country in France, so the stamina is definitely there. I have to be careful of that, but we never buy a horse of 7 furlong or a mile on the flat, never. It has to be at least 10, but mile and a half, because we want to make sure they stay.
And are there certain races in the calendar that you would potentially pinpoint that you've had luck with in the past?
Yes, Auteuil is really the test of everything. It's a test of stamina. You have to jump. You have to go through soft ground. Auteuil is really the best you can have. So, but outside that, I've been lucky with race courses like Compiègne, like Fontainebleau, and then just have to look and feel.
Certainly, and I suppose one that's right on the top of many people's minds at the moment is Lossiemouth. She came over to Ireland with a very tall reputation, and she hasn't let that down one bit.
Yes.
What was it about her that gave her that reputation going over to Close Sutton?
Well, we were with Harold. We were in Yannick Foin's stable in Maison Lafitte to see. I forget a horse. I think a horse we didn't buy, and just at the end we asked Yannick, "Do you have anything else to show us?" And he just said, "I'm running a filly this week. Just want to show you." I was with Harold. She came out of the box. We looked at each other. I said, "Wow!" We didn't say nothing. Just wow! Physically, it was something different, And the pedigree, and then we find out that there was a pedigree of Lord Glitters. And Harold was underbidden in Lord Glitters in Arcana, so the pedigree really was very fancy. We fancy read that pedigree. Then we let the mare running, and when she won in Auteuil, it was incredible. She made a huge mistake at the last and won by 10 lengths with the second gears. So we just jumped on Yannick. We were lucky that we saw the mare before, because on that day people wanted to buy him, but we were in front, and we make the deal. It was difficult because a lot of people wanted to buy her, but because we saw her before and Yannick stayed with us, we bought Min from Yannick, so, and that was Lossiemouth,
And you've seen throughout the last number of years, Quevega, Vroom Vroom Mag, Limini, all these mares. How good is Lossiemouth in comparison to them?
She's probably the one who have the gears, the point de vitesse, how do you say that, turn of foot on the jump. She's probably the most impressive one, I think. Vroom Vroom Mag was really good, but just AQPS, so maybe stay, but missing a bit of class like Lossiemouth has, because Lossiemouth is a half jumping but more flat pedigree. Only Great Pretender is a very good jump sire, but it's more flat on the dam. So she's got this class from the flat pedigree. So it's a mixture. I'll say she's probably the best. Quevega was really good, but Quevega was very difficult to train. He only ran one time or two times. She was very hard to keep sound. No, I'll say Lossiemouth is probably the best ever.
And looking forward to a horse that might take on a champion chase, might take on a Gold Cup, is Majborough, another horse that won very impressively in France, then won the Triumph Hurdle, unlucky in the Arkle this year. Where do you think his future lies?
I always thought he will be a top chaser, this fellow, but sometimes you think that, but Willie take different route because he sees things that we don't see. When he was 3 years old, he was so impressive physically. So he looked like he was going to be a 3-mile chaser, and then he won the Triumph Hurdle. Well, he won impressively in Auteuil, but Willie sees some things we don't really see most of the time. I still think he could be a top chaser. He's on the route for that, but winning the Triumph Hurdle was incredible.
And a horse that had very good form in France was Salvatore Mundi, coming second to Sergino, obviously, in an excellent race. He had a good novice hurdle campaign last year, but there's always been that feeling, I suppose, from plenty that there might be even more to come.
Yes, I'll say we'll be a little bit disappointed with him because of the form of Sergino in Auteuil, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's gonna be his career, but there's so many good horses in Willie's stables. He's one of them, but a little bit disappointed. We really think he was going to be a big one, but he has to prove it. But with Willie, you never give up. They have so long career. And he never give up on the horse, I wouldn't be worried that he ended up to be a very good horse,
And just because I mentioned Sergino, are there times where there are races ran in France and there are certain horses that will get, procured by other agents that you kind of almost wish you could have gotten? Or is it one of those where you're very happy with your own decision making?
No, we missed a few, we missed a few because of the competition with the agents. But we just forget and try to buy the next one, to just try to focus on what was going to be the next one. But sometimes, yes, we're beaten by bigger offer and, things like that. But that's competition.
You mentioned there's times where you can't get quite the horse you might want. Are there any notable names that you sit here and think, I really wish we'd managed to get there?
Yeah, Épatante. We went to see her. We drive all the way. Harold was with me, and at the time Harold didn't have. He came back, dropped him at the airport. I said, "What are we going to do with that mare?" He wasn't sure, because he didn't have the client to buy her, so he gave up on her. But because he didn't have the client for her. But we were going to. She won a bumper in Lyon d'Angers. It was very impressive. He came over. We drove to see her. It was quite a long way from here. I remember so much. He was a little bit toes in, but not too bad. And we didn't buy her, and the Harold knows because she won the next time, and the GP bought her for Nicky Anderson after that, But
And just out of the current crop of horses that people will know that have been in training with Willie Mullins for a couple of years, which horse do you still feel there's a little bit more untapped potential, or potentially could be a star and we mightn't necessarily have seen it just yet?
a horse who run already, who didn't perform at the top level, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many horses. There is some horses who got injured, but with Willie, he get them back. Oh yes, Anzadam. He was so impressive when he won in Compiègne, and then you see what he did. Got injured, but potentially huge machine, but not sound. He passed the vet, but just not sound. And if he come back and stay sound, it can be a pretty big thing, And then when we bought him, he was so impressive in Compiègne. I was there, and we just buy him quick, But he had a setup. But yeah, I think of him. As long as he can come back, and the training of jumping is very, very hard. Harder than flat, definitely. You've been to Willie, the track is very deep, and demanding. But that's a way to perform the top level. You have to get them so fit, and so the horses has to be very sound to take that.
Pierre, thank you so much for your time today. It's been brilliant. On the channel, on the podcast that we do, we are always trying our best to find the next superstar, the next Douvan, the next Vautour, the next Triumph Hurdle winner. Willie Mullins has trained 5 of the last 6 Triumph Hurdle winners, 4 of which came from France. So I managed to find as many horses that came over from France that we've not seen yet. Okay. And I was wondering if I could show you these names, which ones, and I'd imagine there's quite a few on there that are particularly exciting, but are there 1 or 2 that you think could be really special?
Leader d'Allier was very impressive. He won 4 bumper in a row. He's a 4 years old, big horse by Cocorico. He can turn to be something special if he probably as a chaser.
The one name that people are talking about that's the shortest price is it Narciso has?
Well, that's also what. Yes, he could be. Yes, he can turn to be a really, really good over hurdles. Yes, Narciso has. We bought older than that as well.
You bought more than that.
Yes.
Was there a couple that maybe aren't?
I like the Bertutea because he won on the flat as a 2 years old. He has a turn of foot. With Willie, if he improve him a lot, he could turn to be a really decent one. He's not by a very fashionable sire, but Boum Photo, but he's a very racing-like horse. He looked like, is he going to be good enough for Triumph? I'm not sure, but if everything goes well, he should go there.
So Pierre, thanks so much for that. It was really interesting, and I'm sure plenty of people will be really excited. But you mentioned there are a few horses that aren't on the list that you're particularly excited about. Is there 1 or 2 names that you could give the viewers?
Yeah, well, we buy quite recently a horse won in Auteuil in a very good way. Won the Prix Finot for 3 years old, and he's trained by Daniela Mellet, trainer of Majborough. He reminds me Majborough. Same kind of horse. He's called Proactive. It's by Mascot Marvel. We bought him not late. We bought him because a lot of time Willie give a break to the horses before to start them. Now it's a bit close from the beginning of the season. I don't know what's Willie going to do if he give him a break or carry on straight away in the training. But he could be a horse definitely for Cheltenham if everything goes well.
And then what dragged you towards buying Narciso has? What was it about him that you liked?
Well, the way he performed in Auteuil is by Moazissas, and I think he could be a next very good sire. I like him I like him a lot. Son of Marteline. Just the way he performs and physically, he's one of them, yes. One of them.
Could be quite smart.
Yes.
Well, it's very exciting. It's that time of year, especially for us, where we don't know who the stars are going to be. But I know that probably on this list there might be a few. Just to finish off, is there anything that you would love to tick off that you haven't yet? Is there a race that you'd like to buy the winner of?
I know that Willie has it back in his mind. He already tried, but to win the French Gold Cup. That would be fantastic if he managed to do that, because he won the Gold Cup in Ireland and in England, and it'll be fantastic if he win a Gold Cup in France. Just a little bit worried of the ground sometimes in Auteuil, so he's very careful now because he had some injuries. Because actually Auteuil the ground is not as soft as it was before. But if I know that Willie would love to win the French Gold Cup. No?
Do you think a horse like Galopin Des Champs could go for it?
Potentially, Galopin could win easily the French Gold Cup, but is Willie going to take the risk to do that? I don't know, but he always has that in the mind that he'd love to win the French Gold Cup. So I'll be over the moon if he does.
So the mission started. You've got to try and find Willie a French Gold Cup winner.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, and thank you very much. I'm sure our viewers are going to love this. Well, there we go. That was really enjoyable.
It's quite surreal, actually, to be honest.
What an absolute legend, and we possibly found some names for the future. We also spoke about some of those amazing champions and horses that are around now. So if you do enjoy this video, we absolutely enjoyed making it. Probably the one video I've enjoyed most making. So if you want some more like this, then do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and get your comments down below.
See you again soon.